Okay.
I am enough snow, so if we had more snow,
Okay.
it would take forever.
Certainly. So this is session 4, section 1. So what we're going to do is, as mentioned in the intro video, is we're going to essentially make some add-ons to the region of interest stack image and analyze VI that we previously made. We're going to introduce some new sub-VIs that I constructed that can become part of your library. And also look at some data output formats if we have time, because we're running really late today. You may have to look at the second video for some of the data outputs. But okay, so what we're going to do first of all is just open up a previous VI that we made. Now, what we're going to do, because this is session 1, we should go to view course. Session 2, ROI image stack is the one that you made previously. So this should be very familiar. Just to quickly kind of go over it, we have a display an image where we're going to choose our region of interest. We're then going to analyze that region of interest, and it's going to be displayed on the right. So if we go into the block diagram, it's fairly straightforward. If we make reference to the block diagram from the handout, you see there's a few differences. The one in the handout was for image preloader, which is a little bit more advanced, and what we're going to work on today is the ROI one that was written in this particular section. So, to start off with, we can straight away make 2 changes that are very important. One is, this one. We're using this old, busted kind of VI, and we don't want to use that. We want to put in the one that we wrote, the one which does all the sorting for us and takes care of all these issues. So the way that we do that is we right-click on here, and we go to Select a VI, and then we want to choose the VI that we want to put in. And for assistance, I put them all in a folder called sub-VIs in section 4.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I missed a lot of lectures. Do you think I can keep up?
Sure. You can just watch and see how it's going. Okay, so then we need this filter list and order folder contents. That shows up on our diagram. And we want to just replace it for this one. So we have the file path in, file path out, just like there is here. There's the error command. We also have this filter pattern, so we want to put that on the front panel as well, so that we can, choose the JPEGs instead of just letting it run.
Can you tell me with one sentence what you are doing?
This.
Okay.
This one. So essentially, we're taking something we did from session 2 and making it more complex. We're kind of building on something we've previously done and giving it more features like file outputs, and we're also going to introduce more sub-VIs to make things work a little bit better. Okay, so we want to feed this through, so we can grab our wire, connect the input path, delete the old one, and put our ordered path into this one. Same thing with the error lines. We can flow the error lines through here too. And what we should note is, in a second, right? Okay, you want to break this. Okay, no, it's fine, it's connected now. Okay, one thing that you should have is this broken line here. Do you still have a broken? Oh no, you need to delete that one.
This I did it.
Yep. Control Z will undo it.
What?
Control Z.
Yeah.
We'll put it back over. Delete that one. Yep. You need to feed the error through this new one. So use the little wire tool. Click on here. Yeah. No, you're feeding an error output into an error input. So you need to click here.
Here?
All we're doing is replacing this element for the one we had. So we now need to run this wire through there. So if you see what I'm doing on the screen, what, so I'll undo what I did. Okay, this is what you had, yeah? Okay, we're going to delete this one, yeah?
Mhm.
And then this error line used to run through that VI, but we want it to run through this one.
Mhm.
So we just go hover over here till we get our spool. We'll click on it, and then we combine it to here. Click on this one, connect it to this wire, and then delete the excess.
But me, it's most complicated.
Because you're clicking on it, you're not going to the spool. So if you move your mouse and then hover over the line, you'll see that little spool come up.
Mhm.
And if you click right there, and then you hover over here, click there, and then you connect it. Okay. You should also notice that we've got something kind of left over. And if you remember from the previous one, this is the progress bar calculation. So this is iteration number divided by the total number of files multiplied by 100. So this is essentially giving us our percentage. But now we don't have anything which indicates the number of files. But this VI knows how many files there are. So what we can do instead, so if you control B, you remove that break. And instead of using the VI to dictate it, we can use the loop thing to dictate how many files there are. So this n value is how many times round the loop it's going to go.
So control B is to do what?
Control B gets rid of the broken wires.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's good as long as you know which wire is broken. If you have a whole series of broken wires, it'll take you forever to wire everything back together. Yeah? So we've now replaced it for this VI that we wrote, which, you know, if we open it up quickly, you'll remember we're taking the folder contents and we're reworking them. We're kind of doing this little switcheroo to convert between old Windows format ordered files and files formatted the way that we want them. So we've replaced that one. You'll also notice this thing, and I've mentioned previously that, you know, we convert types of rectangles from global rectangle to rectangle very regularly. It's something that you kind of have to do when you deal with regions of interest. So we actually have a sub VI for that. So if we drop another sub VI, so if we go to right click and go to select a VI, and then go to global rectangle to rectangle, and then hit OK. Then you should have this one. So this is actually written wrong. So this is me writing it wrong. This is actually rectangle to global rectangle. Oh, global rectangle to rectangle, I apologize. Okay, so this is just for, you know, our own visualization issues. But what we're doing it here is, if we double click, we'll see exactly what's within this sub VI. It's nothing more complex than what's already written on the screen. Other than we have no need to write this every single time we want to call it, you know, it's not necessary, it's a common function. So that's why I put it in a little sub VI that we can just use whenever we need to, you know, do these regions of interest.
Why this time you have rotation?
Sorry?
Why this time you have
So it always requires, so if we look over here, it always requires this rotation parameter.
Okay, yeah.
We can't get away with that, so we always have to input it.
Okay.
And the reason why it's not set to 0 in the back is just in case you have an example where you want to rotate it.
Okay.
And you don't have to edit the sub VI to put a rotation angle.
Mhm.
So we can trash all of this now. So we can just go ahead and just bin all of this. Because we have it all here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of all the broken lines.
What was the control?
Control B.
B.
So get rid of all that stuff. Okay. So now what we're going to do is feed this wire.
Mhm.
And it should even highlight, and it should be set. I've set these to the right names, so it says ROI cluster. So that's what you feed in. and then you feed out the rectangle, and then we connect that to the rectangle of the light bulb. Okay? Okay, but
Now
if,
how do you choose the region of interest in the first?
no, this is all this is doing is switching numbers. You're choosing the region of interest actually on the image, so in here.
Okay.
So once we have that, we have to put this rotational parameter too. So if you just right click when you've kind of got it highlighted, just go to create constant, and it'll default to 0 because that's what I set it to. And that's all we need to do. Now we've just replaced that whole pile of lines with this because it's nicer. Okay. Is there any other kind of improvements that we can make at this point? I don't think so. So why don't we just go ahead and we'll save this as something new. Just go to File, Save As. We'll save this in session 4. Folder. Section. I'm going to clean it up because I can. There we go. Okay, so we've simplified the diagram somewhat now by having these two new VIs. What we're going to do next is we want to get essentially an output. Right now we're getting this mean intensity value, and we're just showing it on this graph. We have this graph and we're kind of showing it, but what we want is we want to get that data out. We don't want it to just be a graph. So what we need to do is come up with a means of getting that data out. Like I mentioned in the video, there is, if you go to File, Input, Output, so right click, go to File, Input, Output, you have a few options. And this right spreadsheet is probably the most universal. As I mentioned also, what you class as a spreadsheet is probably different than what LabVIEW classes as a spreadsheet. LabVIEW classes as a spreadsheet anything where you put numbers. So text files, DAT files, XLS files, anything where it needs to have columns and rows, it treats it as a spreadsheet, even if it's a single line of text. It still treats that as a spreadsheet. You can output text files on their own. So because we're having a number string, we could output them as a string of numbers. But for better integration with programs like Excel, it's better to keep it as like a tab delimited format, which is one option that we have. If you kind of hover over these things, or in fact go to the help menu, it gives you some information here about what it can do. They can also do all kinds of transpose functions and things like that. But the thing that's most important is this formatting string, which is on top, because that helps it decide really what it's going to put the data as, whether it's going to be space limited, tab delimited, whether you want full stops between each of the elements, or commas, or colons. And depending on what program you're putting it in, depends on what format to put it in. And if you go to the detailed help, it'll give you an explanation of what string to put in there. Its default is tab delimited, so we just let it be the default because it works pretty well. So we don't actually need to wire anything into format. And like I mentioned in previous sessions, only the bold items are necessary. And in this VI, you'll notice there aren't any bold items, which means this VI will be perfectly happy not making it do anything. Some sub VIs are like that. They have zero dependency, so that this VI will run right now without any. It's not very useful because it's not saving any data, but it still can.
Are you recording this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have this spreadsheet file, and we want to get some data into there. Instead of just having the mean intensity, because we're measuring all the others, like the standard deviation, the minimum, maximum, etc., we might as well get it all. Save all the file, and then if we don't need it, we've got a choice later on. We don't have to go ahead and reanalyze anything. So what we want to do is package all of this together and then feed it into this. So with these spreadsheet and with a lot of things that are file outputs, they don't like clusters so much because they can contain any data type. So it doesn't really know how to handle it as an output. Arrays can only have one type of data. So if we put them into then it knows, you know, if it's displaying text or numbers or pictures or. So what we need to do is grab all of these from the cluster. We need to put them into an array, and then feed that array into the spreadsheet. So we'll make a little bit of room here. So just grab the box up, and then right-click, go to Array. Yep, and then we go to Build Array. Right there. 2, 2. And then if you drag down this little kind of tab, so we can put 4 elements in, because there's 4 elements here, we want to capture them all. And then just wire them all over. So first one goes to the first one, second one to the second one, etc. Third one to the third one, fourth one to the fourth one. I'm sorry?
I'm not good for it, this kind of thing. Every time I think it's okay.
That's fine. No problem. Yep.
So can we add the title for each column? I mean, in the text?
Yes, it's a little bit more complex. So what you need to do is we need to build an array. So this will build an array, and it will give us, we'll have this whole array of numbers.
Yeah.
And it'll be a 2D array. It'll have, you know, the different types, and then down it'll be each of the files. So once we've built that, we essentially need to append the array. So we need to add something into it.
Yeah.
So in that case, we would need to build a separate array of the same width. So like a 4 array, but it'd have to be a text-based array. And then with that array, we'd then add that. So we do it like we'd add the arrays together. And it's very possible, and I can show exactly how to do it, but it'll take me like 15 minutes to show you how to do it. So I'd rather just do this, and then maybe next time I'll show you how to do that. It's not a big thing, and it's totally doable. It's just you build a separate array, and then you add the arrays together.
We just need another server VI. Okay.
Well, it just requires us to add some new elements. But I can show you how to do that. Okay, so if we take this this appended array, right now they're double point precision numbers, and just for kind of nicety, it's better to change these to integers, or in fact no, let's leave it. Let's leave them as double point precision and pull over all the numbers. So if you right click or left click here, and just drag this to the edge of the for loop, okay, and then click on the edge of the for loop. Yeah. And then if you click on this one, and then feed it into the 2D data section.
What?
So
you just
left click and wire it into the 2D data section. Go over here. That comes with practice. There you go. Okay, so now we are writing something to the spreadsheet. If we did it as is, if you hover over this, the reason why it doesn't have an error is that if we hover over it, it'll tell us why. That the file path, if it's not wired, will bring up a dialog box. So if we did it as is, when it was finishing, we'll get a little pop-up and say, where do you want to save the file? A lot of times that's kind of annoying, so it's not recommended to do that. It's better to actually wire something in there. But if you're doing something quick, then you can leave it empty. But we want to put something in there so that we're actually naming it something. What we want to do then is go to the file palette. So if we right click and go to File Input Output, okay, and then we want to build a path. and then put that somewhere, doesn't matter where. Okay. Then we're going to feed this path into the dialog. Exactly. So now we have to decide, okay, what name we're going to use. So if we just right click, the one that, you can let people choose it, etc., but it's easiest just to use a constant. So if you just right click, go to create constant, and then we just type something, let's call it, I don't know, data analysis .txt. Okay. Okay, now we need to also state where it's supposed to go. So we now know what the file name is, but we have to kind of add the rest of the information. So one of the kind of easiest places to put it is where the file was to start with. So we want to put it in the same folder. So if we kind of look back across our VI, we chose the file here. So we chose a picture. And then we stripped this file off. We stripped that path off to actually indicate the folder, because this analyzes the folder. So what we want to do is use this path here. So we want to wire this path over there. Okay? Okay. And there's one other thing, guys, just to keep everybody on their toes, or that I just made a mistake, is this one is actually wired to the wrong point. You would notice it as soon as you started. You should always flow back things. So to make things even simpler, when using this VI, you don't have to strip the path. So if we double click and actually look at what this VI is doing, we're selecting a file and we're pulling the path off the file. Okay? So if we look in this, we're selecting the path and then we're pulling it here. So we don't need to pull it off both sides. So instead of wiring this into this section, what we're actually supposed to do is wire it into the parent folder. So just to explain again, this chooses the image, okay? And then we strip the file name off to get the folder name. And that's what we use to make, we want the folder name so we know where to write the file. Yeah? This image sorting sub-VI doesn't look at the folder name. It wants to take care of everything for you. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. So all it wants to do is be pointed towards the image. So you just point that towards a particular file within that folder, and it takes care of the rest. So let me have a little look. So this one, well, let me clean up this. Oh, it is clean. How's that? Oh, no, I can't. That's good. Okay, so right now we're stripping this file path. This becomes the folder, and you're feeding the folder into here, and then adding this file name to it, which is giving us out, which is what we want. But here, this is now the folder name, and you're feeding that into here. But what this wants isn't the folder name. This one wants the parent directory. This one wants the parent file. Because if if you're not building a file name from it, essentially, it wants to simplify things. It wants to make it as simple for you as possible. So to use this sub-VI, you just have to wire in a file, and then it takes care of the rest. So that's what we want to do, make it as simple as possible, but to do that, we have to wire it. Okay, so now, let's just clean up again, so we're a little bit clean. Now we're writing this data output file. This file is now being outputted. I'm going to try this, because we don't like this. Yeah, we all kind of on the same page. We kind of get that we're making a text file with all of these bits of information in. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any data on your computer that you can analyze?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just well, first of all, I'll just check to see. I imagine I still have my results from the last run. No, no, no. Yeah. That one. Okay, so in this folder I have two different file types. I have bitmaps and I have JPEGs. Okay, and one thing that we need to do on this front panel is allow us to select for that. So if we right click on that one, and we will actually want this as a control, so we can type this on the front panel whenever we want to. So where did that go? It went up here. Okay. So what we want to do is say, okay, we want to select all JPEGs only. So that's the pattern that we want to use.
What do you do? Right click?
Yes, right click and then create, control. Okay, so we're not highlighted. So, yeah. No, so you have to be over the, yeah, now right click. Now go to create, control. Okay, now go to the front panel.
Okay.
Okay, it should be up here. And we want to give that just a pattern star.jpg, so that we're just selecting for the JPEG files. In my folder, as an example, there is just as many bitmap files. We don't want those analyzing. There's a whole bunch of other files. We want to select just JPEGs. Okay. So we want to, well, first of all, save it so we don't lose any things. Click on your little folder thing and point to the right folder. And for us, it's in this point and ray camera control thing. Experiments, select two. This one, we choose a file, doesn't matter which. Let's choose this one.
Question. But
Yep.
me, for example, if I open a file, I don't know, it's not written JPEG or this kind of thing.
Okay. Then you would have to right click on the file in your Explorer. So if you right click on that one, see, it's like, if you, it actually highlighted it for you. So if you just click off it, just click off the box. Just click anywhere off the box.
Sorry.
There you go. Now hover over the file.
Over what?
Move the mouse over the file. No, don't click. Just move the mouse over the file.
Like this?
Yeah, don't click.
Yeah.
It tells you what it is.
Okay.
Well,
But I don't have JPEG.
But then type in star.png.
Yeah, I changed this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can just call it star.png. Then you don't, no.
No.
So what it's doing is you're not displaying the file names, the file extensions. Okay?
Mm-hmm. You need to convert.
No. Yes. So because all you're showing is the file name, what we have to do is we need to pick just a file. So we'll pick this one. Okay. But we know these are PNG files, so we need to filter the PNG files.
Okay.
It's PNGs are totally fine image format. It's just, you have to tell it it's PNG that it's looking for and not a JPEG or a TIFF file or a text file or something.
Okay.
It's just a way of selecting the data.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we run the BI and that picture should show up.
Mhm.
Okay. Mine's really dark, but okay. And then you can kind of play with your box, put it somewhere, and it's it right there. Just for fun. Okay, and when you're kind of happy with where you are, just hit run. Progress bar should click along. Boom. Okay, and then you have a little graph to the right which shows this line. We'll wait for Celine to finish.
One question,
Yeah.
very basic question.
Yep.
What does intensity mean? Is it mean the numbers of the pixels or the pixel
It means the value.
of
Of the
each
pixel.
channel?
No, so these ones are essentially color images from a single channel analysis. So if you're pulling them out of, say, the confocal, it should only be the red channel which the color value changes. So in that case, you should just make it into a grayscale image, because color means nothing. Color means nothing in the confocal images. They're single channel information.
Okay.
So you can make them grayscale, and then that's what we're doing. We're making it grayscale, we're analyzing it. We're just displaying the original image.
Okay.
But essentially they're black and white images, just colored black and white images.
So is there any relationship between the intensity and the pixel numbers? Because I want to transfer to the average
It is the
area of how to say the surrounding of the images.
It is the average, it's the mean value.
It's just the value.
It's
no
the mean
relation.
value.
Mean value. And
So it's the average value within that box that you draw.
okay.
So you draw the box
Uh-huh.
of, wherever it is,
Yes.
and then it looks at the intensity value for every pixel,
Uh-huh.
and then gives you the mean.
I just what I mean that's.
Yeah, it does that already.
Yes, that is the intensity of each pixel.
Right, divided by the number of pixels.
Divided by
So
number of
you
pixels.
sum them all together, and you divide by the total number. It's just the mean.
Okay. Okay.
It's the average value.
Okay. So actually, we can deduce from this value to get the pixel numbers.
The number of pixels.
Yes. Yes.
You want to know how many pixels
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it from there. The easiest way is just to write it in the back. I mean, if you go to the block diagram, then in here, you're essentially measuring that. So if you, well, for right now, I'll just make you an indicator. So you have a rectangle. Then it's telling you x1, y1, x2, y2. So you already know.
Yes. But my example is that for example, this is the patch of the lipid.
Mm-hmm.
As the time goes by, it's enlarged.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the how does the area change.
Yeah, that's
So
got
we
nothing
lost
to do with region of interest.
Yes, but we can choose the area like this, not the very small one. And
Yeah.
we hope to measure how many pixels of the fluorescence, for example.
No, you can't do it
We
like that.
cannot do that.
You can't do it like that. No.
We can only get the
Uh,
whole
yeah, no,
pixels.
No.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. You wouldn't do it anywhere near like that.
Okay.
What you have to, I can go through it separately with you. It's a totally different analysis.
Okay.
It's a totally different analysis. You'd measure it. It's very doable and quite easy to do, but it's a different.
It's different. You can.
Yeah. It's a very different analysis.
Okay.
Okay, so we did this. We got a little graph, yeah? Yeah, you got a graph too. So now if we go to that folder where the images are, there should be a text file now, hopefully, somewhere. Let's make these a big list.
Yeah. Yes.
There it is. Alright, so data analysis. So we open that up. Boom. So here's all of our data. So it goes mean value. So this column is mean value. This one is standard deviation. This one is the minimum value. This one's the maximum value.
That's what I mean before. I need to add the title for each column.
Yeah,
That's-
Yeah. No, you can do that. It's just you have to add the arrays
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
So that's what they are because we wired them in that order.
Mm.
So did you get a note? Yeah. So that's all it is. We're outputted this analysis file. we don't have time to go into it, so those watching can essentially, hopefully, watch the second video for the how to change the color and output some files. It'll be touched on again next week, so we're going to introduce it again anyway when we make videos as well as the images. So it's going to be brought up again in both sessions, but for those interested, you should watch the second section because hopefully we'll cover it in that section. Any questions while we're here? Other than how to measure this thing.
Yes, maybe we can
We can do that.
more example.
Okay, then I think we're finished.